We're having another guest laugh at the intro music. We're going to have to get I don't know, we have to get a name for the intro music, maybe Norbert. Or maybe something like that. But we have a regatta going today, which is different, so we're like on the water.
Yeah,
and
no.
So Greg's off at Cheap Trick because we don't want him to fall in, or drummers.
Right.
Drummers aren't bumbles; they don't bounce. But we're sort of stuck in entropy here. So luckily we have an architect of it with us. It's
Hello,
Patrick.
Hey, how's it going?
But actually, one thing I got to start with, totally unrelated, because it's Carnival of Randomness, is I've been watching the whole Paper Chase series. And
with the old
We Earn It, yeah.
with John Houseman.
But I saw the movie. But it's one of those things where it's like how you relate. It just reminds me of my college days so much in a lot of ways. And those are the kind of
no one under the age of 45 has any idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, but John Houseman he was like a theater director. He's the guy you probably saw from the Smiths Barn. We Earn It.
Once again, probably not.
Well,
I remember that.
We're teaching you here.
Yes.
You could learn.
Go to your local library and look up John Houseman. Yeah.
You could just picture him saying we're in it. But it's supposed to be at an Ivy League East Coast college. You think in the movie might have been Harvard. But it's about like a first-year law professor who's well known as like this sort of living legend.
Yeah,
and
he's the stuffy old man.
Yeah,
But
he's one of those guys. Those are the kind of teachers I found I really liked, though. That when you met him at first, they were so intimidating, it scared the heck out of you.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember Father Kavanaugh, our English prof, he'd be a class without questions is a questionable class, and that was when he'd say stuff like that. But when you got to know them, but he would always when he would grade your paper, he would say whatever he put down, say if you do it again, you get an F.
Yeah. I was always buddying up with social studies teachers, I think, and English teachers occasionally, but mostly social studies teachers. And when I look back now, their politics were questionable.
Thankfully, they kept.
Not always.
Okay, at least the ones like my
but I
professor,
was,
they kept
16, what I know.
But I remember my professor, Dr. Harmon, poli-sci, and he goes through there's this one professor who's sort of a legend, Dr. McLaughlin, who's passed away unfortunately. He's a philosophy professor, but he was one of those guys you could be Mensa 190, you would get a D, and he goes, we used to say hi to him in the hall, and he real pleasant. He would walk to school. He lived across the street. The doctor goes, "You don't want to take his class."
The best story I have about a professor was from second year of college, and I was taking English composition or some class that I needed for some reason, and this middle-aged guy at the time. Smoked like a chimney, wore this. He looked like, he was, it was a 2-year school, so it's a, community college. So, he comes in, sits down, doesn't even look at the class, sets his stuff down. He's got, the brown blazer on, it's like the professor's outfit, like a pair of jeans. And it's just so my kid came home with these G.I. Joe action figures, and you put them underwater, and they fill up with water, and then shoot water at each other. They're eco warriors or whatever. I don't know what the hell's up with that. That was his introduction to the class, was talking about some weird G.I. Joe action figures. And I'm this is a burnout old hippie.
But there were a few. There was Colin Lindsay, who I think he's in Seattle now. He comes in. Economics, this young English guy comes in, he sits at the desk, and he's like this. I'm like, this guy's got to get out of the desk when the teacher comes. He looks up, and he goes, man, I had a rough weekend. And my other one was my favorite Marxist of all time, Dr. John Roach. Yeah. I would love to find him if he's around just to say hi. But you would go to his office, you knock on his door, you hear coughing. Yeah. He's like, wait a second, and you see him fanning the But I like that in there.
Blowing stuff out the window.
Then one of the funny ones, we took the psychology class. The professor's talking to my friend Rob, and he's really quiet. And he's like, make sure when you bring it, just bring it in a paper bag. Don't show anyone. And I'm looking. And Rob looks at me. Now, Rob worked at Nobody would guess this in a million years. Rob worked at McDonald's. He collected those Happy Meal figures. He wanted a bunch of them. But I had, like, the ones, what I really liked, like, even in grad schools, I had, like, a handful of them who, they really cared. I mean, they were all eccentric. One of them was, like, a Monty Python character. But they really, like, that's what I really enjoyed about that instead of a bigger school, is it was, like, they really knew you, and they were tough on you, but then you realize, like, how they're really cool.
Yeah, and like, they're, you know, I had teachers, even in high school, that were closer to my age. You know, I have a good friend who taught my English, my senior English class.
Wasn't it weird in high school, though, you would think they were like 90, and they're probably like not even 30, some of them, because we're like younger, how it goes?
Yeah, you become more aware of what the actual difference in age is when you start, like, becoming an adult. When you're little, like, everyone is old.
Yeah.
You know.
Now all the people my age are old, and
Well, John Mulaney has that bit about how when he was 10 years old, he had a babysitter that he thought was like 23, and it turns out she was 13.
I had the one. So I've been doing,
get to the phone slightly faster than I.
What I've been doing, like, I've been going to the library in Greece. I'll go for a walk. You can get a good 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So I'm down off Wada, and I'm like, go walking. This truck pulls up. It's like, it goes, Schwartzy, how's it going? I have no idea. I'm looking, and I go, God, who's that old goat? I go, wait a second, he was in my high school class.
Yeah, no, it's weird how everyone I went to school with got into a time machine and jumped ahead like 20 years. Yeah. And I'm exactly the same. So
yes, see, I know we're both eternally 29.
Yes,
but
yeah.
We're going to, you know, as always, it's the Carnival, especially we have Patrick who could actually talk about all this stuff that Greg can't. Well, Greg can.
And I can't talk about half of the stuff that Greg can.
Actually, we talked about...
We've talked about a lot
of... He's the drummer. I have to pick on him.
Yeah, of course.
But we did a Superman show last week. Remember there was a Superman the musical in the 70s?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
But we did because it was his 85th anniversary. Oh. But there's one thing, you know, we're going to, of course, the main topic, but one thing I have to touch on, because you were in it, but The Whale, just because you starred. Yeah. And I remember, now, I could watch what you did. Honestly, I finally saw it. I was physically ill. I couldn't get through.
It's purposefully. I mean, it's purposely hard to watch, and
real hard.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing, and you know, it got a lot of criticism, and a lot of people really didn't like it for a number of reasons. You know, it's like if they didn't like the writing, you know, it's fine. You know, it's a very earnest thing. Like the play is it's very, there's no subtext. It just is what it is. Well, I mean there is. I mean everything's kind of a metaphor, but at the same time, everything's in front of your face, and it's unpleasant. And you know, but no matter, the one thing that nobody seems to knock is Brendan Fraser's performance. Yeah. It was incredible, and the prosthetics were amazing. They looked really real, and they were necessary. And you know, you don't find a lot of actors who are that dangerously obese.
No, that's Calhoun is dead.
Yeah, because they're probably uninsurable. But you know, and I'm a fat guy, and I am, you know, I love body positivity, and you know, I get just as annoyed when people just, you know, you get that whole like, I just want you to be healthy thing, and I'm like, you know, but there are still dangerous levels of obesity.
It's like me.
Yeah, you know,
I'm the only one.
If you're over 600 pounds, it's gonna get you. You know?
I'm the only one who will pick nits, and I've always had like struggles with weight my whole life, is stress and everything. It's nothing about I'm gonna pick nits. This is just me. The Moby Dick stuff. The one thing he says is he didn't want to finish the novel because he didn't want to end. He kept going because they paid you by the page. That's why. Yeah, there's all. If you read it, and I've read Moby Dick, I never will criticize.
It was a serialized story.
If you read Moby Dick, it's like over 600 pages. All of a sudden, in the middle, they all vanish. Yeah. It's a dissertation of the beauty of killing whales. You know, this propaganda. Oh, they'll never go extinct. And you're wondering, why did he do that? Because they were getting paid by the page, so he wanted to extend it. It was serialized. So that's just picking nits, though. I mean, most people are going to just be, I have to just find the weirdest thing to criticize. Yeah.
Well, it's, people, I think it was the on the nose kind of allegory, but at the same time, it's like I said, it's very earnest.
It's more about obsession, though, too, like Moby Dick. I'm being a dick to myself about this. Like, how did you get, I saw the play. You were excellent, of course.
Oh, thank you.
But, and actually, you're excellent because I can actually vaguely, all the stuff I see, I can remember it. I was telling MJ.
Yeah, I was surprised at how much. I was surprised at how much of a direct adaptation it was, but there were some things.
How was the reaction? Did people come up to you and say, "What did anybody? Did you touch anybody? Like how they were like, oh, this is really sad," or
probably I don't. Yeah, probably. Of course they did. No, I mean, it was weird. It was a weird time. That was obviously.
I don't even remember what year that was. I know it was it's quite a bit ago.
2015. I want to say 2015.
Whatever.
I could be wrong. Yeah, while the show was going on, I remember performances, but I don't remember a lot around it because it was
that's how it
was such a huge all-encompassing thing. I haven't done anything like that intense since. But yeah, no, I do recall some conversations I had with people about the show and how it connected with them.
And I think there's a tragic there's always a tragedy. It's like Aronofsky loves to do with the wrestler. And
yeah.
Where there's a the character whose tragic flaw is going to get him.
Right.
Because with the wrestler, he could find happiness, but it's just his demons won't let him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and he's not known for taking an easy track with most of his films, and he's also not shy. He's not shy about doing films that critics hate or people don't understand, or he will still make them, and they'll still be beautiful one way or another. And a lot of the biggest negative I was getting consistently from people was about Sadie Sink's performance as the daughter, and I thought she was great.
No, and I think
you're going to have the character is purposely detestable.
Yeah,
it's the whole,
because too you're going to be bitter. Your dad left you. You're going to be having these. I love you. No, I just want to be here for my inheritance.
But just the reactions people had to the character, I didn't find her as horrible as everyone else did, and I knew the character better than most people just watching the movie.
But when we have an expert on this subject who actually played the character, we need to milk his brain and everything.
Yeah. He chose his way to go out, and the only thing he needed to do before he left was to just reconnect.
Yeah, a bit of redemption,
and that's it. And it's controversial, because whenever you're dealing with a subject of someone choosing to end their own life, it's going to be, and it's a rough way to do it, because there's no, it's not like taking a bunch of pills or jumping off a roof. It's like you don't know it's going to happen. You just don't know when, and everyone's trying to help you, and you just you don't want it. But anyway,
So we're starting off with a really bright note.
Yes,
but I actually have one movie I'll never watch again. Is I love the movie too. Is Once for Warriors, but I got physically ill again watching it the last
that
time.
one. Yeah, I
hadn't watched it in a while.
It's one of those.
But then when I watched it again, I was like, okay, I just can't.
I knew what a rough ride that movie was.
But I didn't realize what a rough ride it was.
Yeah.
But now more positive stuff. Making you think and learn as we try to do before we get silly. But, go watch a fart video after this online if you want to cheer you up. Yeah. But now your show, you just finished your first season of Architects of Entropy, did you?
Yes, yeah.
I'm saying the title right.
Awesome. Architects of, it's just, it flows off the tongue. It's a podcast called See, I can't even say it.
I said it.
It's early. Architects of Entropy.
We're on the water.
Paddling. Yes. Yeah, I think looking out for ducks. It's a actual play podcast where we play tabletop role-playing games. The first season is a full campaign of Dungeons and Dragons, and the hook with our particular actual play is that it's a collaborative world-building exercise. So it's myself as the game master and the players are all responsible for creating the world that we're playing in. and the idea is we will do, seasons where we're playing different games in different settings and coming up with, our own ideas of how everything works. So, the first season was, it's been entitled The Heroes of Iamora. It's a high fantasy story set in a world that we created with, elves and dragons and, all that sort of fantasy stuff, but our own kind of weird bent on it with some, unique species and, this overarching story of battling this great evil.
Was it organic? Like, did you start off like thin idea of what was going on, or was it like sort of more structured? But you just went whatever way all of a sudden it's like, wow, we'll go this way.
Yeah, what we did was we actually sat down with like a big hex map and we plotted out like this continent, and it wound up being way bigger than it should have been, but we had no idea where to start. And we were doing it kind of like a mini game in of itself. The only thing I wish we had been able to record that, but I don't know how much fun it would have been for people to listen to. But it took place over like hours, and we basically went through like a few thousand years of history, like putting locations on you. Here's some mountains, here's rivers, here's a swamp, here's another swamp, here's another. Too many swamps. That's the only thing we did. And then we said, okay, where do we want to start? So we had like a history of this place. So we knew when these people were discovered or created, and events up till the point in history of like we were coming off like a period of conflict where there were a bunch of wars, and we just had it was first 3 characters, and when we had someone join later on, starting in this big city, and it just went from there. And it literally was, I just was taking the history and places and things that we, all of us created, and then making a story. And initially it was just, I had no idea what it was going to be or what direction it went. I just had, here's 3 or 4 things in the city. Let's see what they do. And it wound up being this whole thing where they follow this amorphous being controlling things from behind the scenes. So that's the first season, and it's all available.
Is it the set cast you have, or you have like rope people who come in, or
it's a set cast. It's a set cast, but there are we do have guests coming in. We've had, if anybody has played a tabletop role-playing game with any frequency, you know that your players are not always available when you need them.
You need Frank to bring his death whistle. Have you heard about this?
No.
So by the way, our cheers to our good pal Tommy, who just got married a week ago.
Yeah, congratulations, Tommy. That's awesome.
But so that's why he couldn't be here today.
Yeah, understandable.
No priorities. But so, really great band Frank's in right now. My good friends Eric Witkowski, Nia Shea, she's been on The Living Room. But there's one thing where I told Nia, you pierced my ears on that scream. And she said, it wasn't me, it was Frank. Frank's got this thing, it's called the Mayan death whistle. And he's like this, it's like, it does a scream.
I've heard of those. But
the best was, like, we played Abilene. He wore Daisy Dukes.
Of course he did.
And I want him to be the centerfold of our calendar. But this Mayan death, and he's showing it to people, and it's weird. It's just this little thing. Oh.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible loud
but
sound.
You could have him as like a cameo. Okay, be the monster.
Yeah. Stand way over there because it'll blow out the microphone.
Well, he stands. That's why I think they shove him in the back.
Yeah,
because any pictures I have of like the band, you never see him because
he's always off in the shadows. He's a keyboardist, right? He's always kind of off in the corner. And Now, for your show, I mean, you could pick this wacky show up anywhere you want. Maybe it might be dated if somebody had a gig and we're promoting it, but But now, if we were going to jump in, how do you get involved with yours? Because you have a story. Yes, absolutely. So the good news is it's being an audio podcast. You can find it anywhere you can get podcasts. Just look up Architects of Entropy, and you will find there are like 60-plus episodes. The main story is 57 episodes, and then there's some world-building specials we did while we were going. We found some places that we wanted to kind of dig deeper on. But if you just want to follow the story, just episode 1 through episode 57, that's the main story. Those are now season 1. It's a complete story. There's arcs of it, like the first 24, 25 episodes are an arc, and then it goes in little chunks after that. They start in one place and they go to another place, then they go to another. They go to 3 different places where they have following this whole thing, and they ended in this big giant swamp, which was more of a. It wasn't how I imagined it ending, but it was a really cool ending because it just evolved organically and followed not just the story, but actually I asked them what places that they had created that they want us to go to, and then I just followed that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. The cast is MJ Savastano, who we all know.
Who could play anything, basically.
Yeah. Yes. Kevin Chaba, who's another DVC regular. My friend Rick Thompson, who is one of the few people I know who has never done theater, but is a longtime role player, game master, and a real, he's into all different kinds of games. And then we had some guests. We had guests coming in and out here and there, and the first regular guest we had was my friend Scott Branson, who was from Rochester and was our game master for years and years, and he's a brilliant writer. And I brought him in as a side character that I would bring in whenever I was low on people, or I just needed to inject some certain brand of insanity into it. And then about halfway through the series, he became a series regular with a character that he played a very a bandit turned road knight who. And I really feel like the show really kind of became something when he joined, because he injected a lot more of a lot of humor into the show, but also just an energy that I think we kind of needed.
I think it evolves. So that's the thing.
I ramble.
That's the thing about it. That's why you're good for this show.
Yeah.
That's the thing about all these too. It's like when this started out, it wasn't so hot. You learn as you go, and it evolves. And I hope you don't look back and go, "Wow, that one was." But
it's always.
But
it's,
your 15th episode should be better
always
than the first episode in a way. Not better, but you just you're going and more comfortable. And So and now it's coming up with season 2. Yeah.
Sure. Well, one thing, just one more thing I want to add that I forgot to say. Yeah, so it's one more thing.
One more thing.
Yeah. Also, I have pretty severe ADD, so I really easily off track.
So we have ADD and OCD.
Yeah. And the other thing that is very important to me about it is listenability. This is why I edit the shows so they flow better than just your average role-playing game where there's a lot of side chat and distractions and things and looking up rules. So I usually edit episodes from an hour and a half down to about an hour, and mostly it's cutting a lot of me talking and throwing in information that is completely unnecessary. But the other thing that has been a lot of fun is developing soundscapes. I put in music and sound effects. And most importantly, the thing I probably should have mentioned first is one of the best things about our podcast is we have an incredible theme song that our good friend and engineer Andy Calabrese made for me very generously. Gave me some stingers that I use, and that's the first thing. I mean, the first thing you hear is his incredible opening and closing. Well, the last thing you hear is closing, but it's really good. Yeah, it's really good.
And that's famous Carnival.
It fits any genre.
Famous Carnival tangent. Though I saw you were a Def Leppard fan.
Oh yeah. I've always liked Def Leppard. It's one of those things where when I was younger, at certain points, like in the mid '80s, it was totally cool to like Def Leppard, and then After that, it became less cool, but I always still.
But did you?
I always still had Pyromania.
We're about the same age, but I'm
High and Dry.
A little older. But did you see the Pyromania tour?
No, I never got.
The thing I said about for that one was
I was way too of a dainty lad to go to a Def Leppard show.
If you watch Joe Elliott, he just has this charisma on stage.
He's incredible. He's really good, and just seems like a really Every time I've seen him, he just seems like a super, super nice, really positive
that's
guy.
Like one of the ones
who loves music, and he became best friends with Brian May. Just organically, and I still think he's got to still check himself every once in a while.
Everybody tries to be generic. They're not hair metal. If you listen to Rocket, those are their influences, the glam rock.
Yeah, 100%.
And you can hear the way they do everything. How
there's so much Queen. There's so much Slade and T-Rex and
And for me,
Bowie,
that's one of mine. I don't care
more glam
what
Bowie.
People listen to. Say what you like, whatever it is for you, it is for you. I think Queen, especially their first, they were a glam band.
100%.
Yeah. Glam. They weren't 100%. A rock band. Now you could say they're a rock band, but their first 5 albums, especially, they were glam.
But also they were a big production band.
Yeah,
and that's the thing about Def Leppard is also it's their studio stuff. They did incredible soundscapes and the production.
And Queen, not Kiss, is the one who really started the big stages and everything of the show.
Oh yeah. As much of I've never been a fan of their music, but I've always appreciated the theatricality that they brought.
Kiss.
Yeah.
I don't appreciate some of that. Other ways, but you know what? The way I say it, one of my friends
people get old, and sometimes they just need to.
One of my friends really likes them, and he says you get them. I always say they're entertainers. They're entertaining. When you're going to see a show, now their music is not total crap, though. And I would argue, my good friend, the Kratz Band, would say, first 3 albums are really grungy, rocky.
Yeah, that's the stuff, if I was going to put on
get the first 3 albums,
then they just get slicker.
You're going to see a show. That's what you're going to go see.
Yeah, and their personalities, they brought their own personalities.
Not going to see Dylan,
Yeah, well, Dylan's another one. Dylan's, he's more performative than people give him credit for.
He does, but
he's been putting on a show for.
The shocker with him, and the last time I saw him at the Auditorium Theater, he was incredible. And sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. Yeah. But the thing about him is, if you've never seen him before, realize he might not talk at all, which is fine.
Yeah, no. Some people aren't chatty.
Some people don't get it though. But he might do sometimes is introduce the band, which he did. But he bowed. Yeah, which is fine. It's you get a good show.
The one artist I was surprised when I saw who wasn't talky, and it might have just been the form of the show, was Elvis Costello. I saw Elvis Costello years ago in Delaware Park, and it was just song, 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 in a relentless pace. And I had to pee the entire time, and I did not dare leave from the spot I was standing.
I wish I didn't see it at Jazz Fest, but he did the thing. He had the wheel.
He was doing that then.
He played 4 hours.
Yeah, it was a real long show, and it was his band, The Imposters, and incredible.
Well, my friend Greg Townsend with Nick Lowe, they're playing with them. They're actually on a bill with them. Yeah, it's cool. But now we'll get back. The Entropy hit us back to season 2 here.
The one more thing I'll say about theatrical bands is I'm a huge fan of the band Ghost.
Oh yeah,
they're incredible. So if you haven't checked out Ghost, don't be afraid of the Satan stuff. It's kind of winky.
All of
and
it
gets less. Yeah,
it's a lot of that.
It's purposefully kind of confronting early on. But anyway,
I don't know. I'm for all whatever it is. It is what it is. But season 2, what can we expect?
Okay.
You even know.
I do actually. We have actually recorded the first couple episodes, and actually in a few hours from now, we'll be recording episode 3 and 4.
Keep paddling.
Yeah. We gotta get there.
And your banjos go faster.
Oh no! And he's gonna put some water sounds behind us occasionally. No, but the second season we are going from medieval fantasy to space fantasy.
Will there be space dragons?
There could be space dragons. If you're a good little boy, they might happen. So what we're doing is we're actually the game we're playing now is set in the far future in the very, very edges of this massive league of planets, and our characters we're going from the continent of Iamora to the Iamora sector. And that's another thing that you'll find is if you are a fan of the stuff we did before, you will see a lot of repeated themes, repeated names, even some repeated characters in different forms. What the idea was, something I stole from my friend Rick, who was on the show, was the idea of each game kind of existing in a multiverse. Which now, thanks to Marvel and Everything Everywhere All at Once, we're all familiar with multiverses now. So we know that eventually you will see different versions of the characters.
Earth 1, 2, 3,
and
79.
there was in a universe with aliens, it was really easy to port over some of the interesting species of creatures that we created and just putting them into a space setting. And we are not using the rule set of Dungeons & Dragons. We are using the rules of a game called Scum and Villainy.
Yes, which I say you have this book
with
you.
By Evil Hat Productions and Off Guard Games. It is a forged in the dark game, and what that is it's based on the rules of probably the most popular indie role playing game that has been out in a while. A game called Blades in the Dark, and it is more of a narrative focused system. It's a lot less like granular, like you're rolling dice for everything. It describes itself, and this is one of my favorite things about how it's described. Is a collaborative discussion between the game master and the players in which narrative uncertainty is resolved with dice. So basically, you are all telling a story. You're all kind of having this narrative conversation, and occasionally you roll dice to determine things that chance has a plan. So what we did was there is a set setting for Scum and Villainy. So what we did is we basically just scrubbed it and put in place our own things. We used the format of that, and we've made our own planets, our own different antagonists, our own weird space powers. So this takes place. The Iamora sector is in the vast reaches of space, kind of akin to the Outer Rim from Star Wars. But instead of a overarching evil empire, there's this kind of old and decaying League of Chartered Worlds, we call it, which is basically like a somewhat democratic government that has gotten so big and spread so far that it has very little control over the worlds in these far-off places. So the Iamora sector is actually run by a council of a bunch of mega corporations. So this corporate council is kind of pulling the strings in this sector of space, and it wanted to pull in a lot kind of like cyberpunk elements as well. And our heroes of the story are just a plucky crew of spacers who are just trying to make it out in space. They are a crew of would-be smugglers, but they're really not at the Han Solo level yet. They're just kind of starting to find their feet. So our cast, we have half our cast is new, half our cast is returning. We have Scott playing the doctor of the group, who is not your Bones McCoy type of doctor. He's I'm not
a Bones McCoy doctor.
Rick, who's playing this mysterious mystic character. And then you have our new cast members, but former guests, John and Jillian Christensen, who have been huge supporters of the show and are both performers. Jilly, I've known forever. She acts, she stage manages. John is a great game master and gamer and incredibly brilliant human who is my standard man crush, I think, these days. And they are playing, he is playing Tristan, who is a mechanic, who holds everything together. And Jillian is playing Remy, a scoundrel, which is kind of a class of character in and of itself. who has a kind of a, almost like an inherent luck aura around them any time. And at some point in the future, hopefully sooner rather than later, MJ will be coming in as well as a cast member, kind of rotating with Rick in a way that, if it works, will be incredible. But if it never lines up, then Rick's just going to be playing this character, which is fine. But it's like anything else. It's still, it's a show, but it's also a game. So we're still going to have the constraints of your average, group of friends role-playing games. But as I try to emphasize, it's also a show. So, we're using our inside voices outside and being more descriptive. And to me, more than anyone, I'm one who breaks that rule most often. So.
Well, the rules are made.
But,
and I think it's a format that's endless too. You can, as long as you enjoy it, you can keep going here and there and everywhere on this.
Yeah. And this is the fun and kind of scary thing about this particular game is that there's like a lot of it can be done on the fly. You have a lot of things that are just kind of very loosely defined, but they get, when you zero in on them, you add more details, and it's a great system for collaborative world building because it gives the players narrative control as well. If a character comes in that they have some kind of relationship with, and you're just like, okay, well, tell me about this character that we're meeting. I'll portray them, but I'll based on what they tell me. And some places like, every faction and planet and thing has been created by one of us and kind of massaged by all of us. So, if I'm dealing with a corporation that Jilly made, I will, when we're dealing with it, I'll ask her questions about like, well, would this be in
interlogic in our own little universe?
Yeah.
Like Alan Steele, when he does hardcore sci-fi, he tries to be as realistic as possible.
Yes, and this is
as long as you stick in your own world, what's realistic for your world. Fine.
and this is one of the big tenets of this game is that this is not hard sci-fi in any way.
No.
This is pulp fantasy. Planets might not make logical sense in the term of how planets normally work.
Like Star Trek, where you could land on every planet, they had oxygen.
Well, it's the same thing. It was just like in Star Wars, you had like desert planets with a breathable atmosphere, and just like things that don't make a lot of sense.
They have fun. That's the thing. But my man crush at the moment.
Fantasy.
My man crush is the new Doctor Who god. I saw him. Wow.
Are you talking about Shooty?
Yeah, Shooty.
Oh my God!
I saw I just saw.
Did you see the 1960s?
Ruby
Sunday, yeah. Did you see the 1960s get up?
Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh, he won't replace Amelia, but he's I'm trying not to get too excited though because
we got to go through. Like I'm saying, we got to suffer through David Tennant, which we don't. Obviously not suffer. He's great, but it's just like it's weird.
There's going to be.
But
I don't want to even know what's. I just want to sit there because one thing we could talk about a little because it too. Everybody tries to be so negative about everything. They have to automate. I hate this.
It's the nerd sport.
One of my thing was with Picard, and I tried to explain with.
It's because here's the thing. Yeah. It's not really new. It's just we can hear it more.
Oh yeah, I know it's always been
people.
There.
You've always had the nerdy contrarians who don't like anything
Carl
that's popular.
Xenogenesis about fans.
But it's just now they have a voice that everyone that gets thrown in their face. I
just don't we're
curate your social media. Landscape.
Indiana Jones, the new movie, it sucks. So, did you see it? No, it sucks.
No, I haven't seen. Anytime it's come up, it's just been a really, really horrible.
Let me make my own mind out if it sucks.
From some unqualified critic.
Heard. Go back for when Star Wars.
He's really old. We know he's really old.
But go back to the last 3 Star Wars movies. The theories about what they were about. They were like how many. I saw one thing list all these theories, which were for sure they had secret scripts, all wrong. My favorite was it opens up and you see a hand fly through space.
That was the it was like Luke's hand with a lightsaber, and That one I feel like might have been a thing because it came up so often.
Could have been.
But it might have been a thing.
The Force the Sith Inquisitors, that stuff.
Yeah.
But I say, like, with Picard, people are like, he's old, bitter. Like, you ever read Robin Hood? They stopped Robin Hood because if you read the epilogue, what happens in 5 years, when you're older, you're not the same person as where you were then. You have your regrets. Life has weighed on you. I really like Picard.
I love
myself.
Picard. I love the ending. I thought if you were a fan of The Next Generation, and I certainly was, it was a perfect button. You know, were there some things I wish they hadn't done in that show? Obviously. Were there some characters I wish they hadn't killed off? We all know who they are. But you know what? It is what it is.
In the end, it's not real either.
Yeah, it's just like...
You can go see the person who was killed off if you run into him.
I'm reading articles popping up in my feed about Quentin Tarantino proclaiming that his characters from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood are like Rick Colton is dead, and it came across my feed like it was an actual obituary. I'm like, it's a fictional character that he said is dead who never really existed.
I think he was based on Judo Jean LaBelle, but that doesn't mean anything.
But it doesn't mean anything.
No, he's fictional, though.
But it's just funny.
They're amalgamations of characters.
I feel like he made these statements offhandedly to someone, and then it just became news, entertainment news.
Well, he just shoots from the hip.
I wish it was real, because then Sharon Tate probably would still be alive. But unfortunately,
I explained to people, like somebody would say, Hitler. Too bad Hitler wasn't like in the Inglourious Basterds.
I call him like history. It's like almost like history porn, where it's just it's like yes, we know they didn't, but. Wouldn't it be great to watch the Manson family get torched with a flamethrower?
Yeah, wasn't that awesome? Or get bit by the...
It was fist-pumpingly hilarious. And,
I actually found the dog food to the face was funny just because.
It was cathartic to me. It was like I've been hearing this horrible story regurgitated my entire life.
And when I was a kid, and when I went to see, I had no idea. So I'm
watching it turned on its ear, and
I'm at the end going, "Oh, I don't want to see this."
No, it was the same way. I was the same way. Then when it started, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna do a Hitler with it." I got so excited.
Well, it's like Cliff is like freaking stoned from the PCP joint.
Yes.
He's like,
oh no, it was an LSD joint, and from what I understand, that was factually incorrect. That wasn't supposed to work that way. I don't know, but I've been told by other people that.
You think it's escapism, though. It's like I want to do I wish he would do Once Upon a Time in Rochester in the '70s, like especially like Tahoes and stuff.
Oh my God, no! Rochester in the '70s, you could make. Someone could make a TV series loosely based on the mob stories in the city, but make it a comedy, because these guys were these were like the 10th rate.
I heard about, because for real, there was a guy who used to sell street meat. He literally, he counterfeited. He was like there was the A team and the B team.
Yeah.
And he did stuff I don't want to know about, but he came out, it sounds out like he did his time.
The Blue Gardenia.
And they paid him, the Blue Gardenia, the Glass
45
Onion.
Motel.
All those. I think Tail of a Whale, maybe, yes, no.
I don't know.
Glass Onion, I think, was one for sure. But he told me all these stories about it, and he would always be like,
everybody's got
but he would be
stories.
like in the Bronx, he'd be, this isn't for you. I was like, no, it's not for me. But it sounds like he was paid off for just being
these
quiet.
These are all like people, from what I understand, and I'm probably wrong, I could be wrong, but I was understanding these are all people who couldn't make it in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They came here to even a further down the chain city.
If I could get the name, there's a guy who was a cop in Pittsburgh. He wrote a book. Like, if you get a hold of his wife, they will make copies of it about all the old mob stuff.
Oh, yeah, you can go, there's certain stores and shops in town where you can buy, like, self-published books about the Rochester mob.
It's like the one I want to... Have you ever heard of... Because I don't know if you were...
Well, I'm from Victor, and that's where Valenti's brother had a mansion on the hill. So we were always talking. And where Exit 45 Motel, where they put a hit on a guy, where they unloaded 1 million bullets in the Exit 45, hit a guy in the butt.
I don't know if you were a Rocky Horror geek like I was, even though I've known you. But there's a chapter called called Midnight the Lost and Found, which by the people who did it at Pittsford Plaza. That's like one of those lost treasures for me to find sometime. You could find everything else, but this was like one of those lost books, like you hope turns up somewhere or whatever else.
I will admit that I was always very snooty about Rocky Horror, because people would be like, "Oh, do you Rocky Horror?" I said, "No, I do actual theater."
I love it.
Isn't that snarky and awful?
Sometimes it's
These
fun.
are people who wish they could do theater. It's like, yeah, most of these people are theater people, idiot. I'm like, okay, well, fine.
It's like what's like the MST3K episode with Samson and the vampire where TV's Frank punch. Take this, you community free theater reaching punches the Renaissance. They all made those jokes about Renaissance festivals. So I started laughing if I went to them. But one thing I want to
know who makes jokes about Renaissance Fair performers? Renaissance Fair performers. You know, make jokes about community theater performers? Community theater performers.
Who makes
can't
jokes
take the piss out of yourself?
Who makes
what are
jokes
you
about
doing?
music? I make jokes about music. But one of the things, too, I want to talk about...
The biggest name in
now, for me, as I say, I go into everything wanting to like it. Now, I admit, like, some Marvel for me now, I don't know if I've just got old, but it's, like, sort of just hit level for me where it doesn't, like, a lot of...
Yeah, no, the fatigue... this is the fatigue they expected to happen, like, 5 years ago, and it's happening now, but they're smart, they're course correcting. I think it's like it's a Star Wars thing. All of a sudden there was Star Wars every 5 minutes, and now but you can't. These franchise trains will roll, and I'm not precious about it. I'm a Marvel fan. I've never disliked a Marvel movie to the extent that some of these people have. I liked all of them. There are definitely some I like more than others. I understand the critiques people have with them, but I'm also I admit I'm a fanboy for it. So,
well, I want to
certain things that I like.
I want to see how they do Kang Dynasty, just because it's one of my favorite comic book stories.
I have a feeling.
It's tough. MODOK's like my favorite psychotic Mr. Potato Head. So
MODOK was. This is the thing. There was never going to be a way to introduce MODOK that was going to you couldn't do it. I mean, I think the best version of it is the animated series that they did with Patton Oswalt, which also does not
the comic book where he turns all the heroes into little MODOKs in the one.
It's a silly character. It's always a silly character.
Galactus, the Eternal,
he's a head with
one of the biggest forces in the universe is this big dude who looks like he came from the Knights Who Say Knee with shorts.
Yes, yes, that's right. Galactus does wear shorts.
Yeah,
he's got a big purple headdress.
Yeah, I mean,
do you hear who the rumors are? Who they were talking to for Galactus? I have no idea what the validity is. Antonio Banderas, and I'm like, why not?
You know what?
Why not? I'm just like, honestly, Galactus. But, the thing is, Galactus, the character, is such a you don't think of a personality when he's just a big giant guy who eats planets.
He's a force. He doesn't care. He's not in his own way. Yeah, he's genocidal, but he's not. He's not malicious.
They've really tried. Yeah. They've tried to get inside the mind of these drug-addled fever dreams from Jim Starlin and Jack Kirby.
Oh, some of that art and stuff. And,
don't look too hard, but it's just I mean, Galactus would try. First of all, Galactus has to eat planets. He has to stay alive. He's a balancing force in the universe. You just have to if Galactus dies and the universe is in trouble, however, he needs to eat planets to survive. So he sends out people to find planets that don't have people on them. But sometimes he gets hungry and he can't find one. He's got to eat the planet with people on it. It's just, you got to get a feel for the guy. It's a tough row to hoe.
But actually, the one thing I will say, Secret Invasion looks like it's going to be a step above. That one I'm going to.
Yes, I think
now,
it will.
The comic was up and down, but I don't know. I have a feeling about Secret Invasion. I'm actually looking forward to this one.
I know why. I'm not going to say it.
Because it's a good story. It looks really intelligent.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be able to bring us the Skrulls that we remember from the comics. Not to say when we got the Skrulls in Captain Marvel that I didn't think it was awesome that the Skrulls were not the villains, because I'm getting tired, and I think a lot of people are getting tired in fantasy stories. The whole evil race of people, every person of this, of this species they're all bad. I'm like, why? It's really lame and lazy storytelling, which is why a lot of role-playing games are kind of easing back from that as well.
And it goes back to the old good old,
there are good Kree, there are bad Kree. There are good Skrulls, there are good humans, there are bad humans, and everything in between. It's it's just like yes, it's 4 color stories, but you're bringing them into a infinite color world. You gotta make some changes to make them palatable.
Still one of the best.
And stop making things just for fans, because if you're just making things for fans, they will turn on you, and 2, you will not. It's like you need to make it accessible. You need people to
I'm
come
like
in and
that.
watch
I get
it.
anal about stuff I like, but it's for a general audience. You don't have to be.
Easter eggs are
you
cool.
can have fun, cool stuff you just get, but it's
don't jam stuff in there. Like don't clumsily jam stuff in there for fans to notice and to make everyone else go, why did we stop for 5 minutes to talk about this thing?
So the cat and Captain Marvel was just cool.
Yeah, and they made it. And it's hilarious. And have you seen the trailer for Marvels?
Yeah.
When the cat eats somebody.
I love the cat. The cat steals the show though.
And she's just like, ah!
That's awesome though.
Genuine terrified reaction.
Yeah, but that's actually my dear friend Caitlin, and she's doing. She's actually traveling for books now. She's did a cover for Wonder Woman. She's doing some Wonder Woman and all these other cool things. We were not arguing, but we were talking about like food in France. Because I like you cannot eat the chocolate eclairs because she was big on the croissants, and she's like, you can get chocolate eclair here, not like in Paris. But her best review ever.
You're getting chocolate in Europe of any kind. You're not like
and she's done she's done so much cool stuff. But her best review ever for like any show was for The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Like Baby Yoda's so fucking cute. That was her review.
His name is Grogu.
See, there you go.
His name is... Yes, I'm going to be that nerdy fan. They gave him a name.
Now, she didn't even say that to
I know.
me.
Well, to be fair, when she said that, he didn't have a name.
Yeah,
people just called it. People just called him Baby, and people still do call him Baby Yoda because he does. He looks like Baby Yoda, but he couldn't possibly be a Baby Yoda. He was born when Yoda was still alive.
But now, what do you think? Okay, now like our good friend Mike, and he's got new adventures. He's leaving Madagascar to go to another theater, and hopefully we'll see him sometime down the line. And Caitlin's really
I'm looking forward to that theater opening.
But
it's going to be.
But he's busy. Caitlin's really busy, of course. We'll hopefully see her soon down the line.
That would be nice, yeah.
Always nice that I can argue about her, what she didn't tell me, the project that she didn't do. But what do you now?
No,
okay.
she was wise to not tell you
Flash.
That. She probably should have never told you that ever.
The Flash? Now, how it's like, it's bad. That's like the misfortune of these people that we have to get like these. Again, it's acting. He seems like such a nice, likable guy.
Well, this is nothing to do. Yeah, I mean, the movie looks. Yeah. The movie is either gonna. It looks like it's either gonna be really good or.
See, Mike's a big Affleck guy for Batman. He actually really likes Affleck.
The multiverse stuff is fun. I want to start getting multiverse fatigue. And my whole thing about the multiverse thing is that it was what I feared and was thankfully wrong in Spider-Man No Way Home. Was I thought they were like just bringing characters over and then just slapping them in our universe, but they didn't, and that's what I like. Is like I don't want them just bringing the X-Men from the Fox movies and just slam them here and with their history and saying that's it, because it's lazy.
I thought Garfield stood out in that, though. That was like,
and I really liked him. I really liked the first Amazing Spider-Man. The second one was terrible.
It was too long. It was
too long. They were immediately trying to do the too many villains thing. Their version of Electro was awful, and luckily Jamie Foxx agreed. Jamie Foxx did not like the version he played in No Way Home was the version he wanted to play. But they made him this stereotypical dork who is not even real, who's like, that person doesn't exist, and
that's the weird thing for me though with Electro. To me, I know he's for me he was a Daredevil villain because somehow for the comics I caught him on Daredevil first.
Yeah, he was always a Spider-Man.
But I'll never, it's sad but funny in the same way.
He wasn't like he was like a guy who worked on power lines, right? So he was just,
whenever you say stereotype, I have to go back to the last
people
time.
Work on power lines are not scumbags.
The last time we saw Joel Hodgson, The one scene in that movie, So Kansas, No Retreat, No Surrender. There's the kid bounces a basketball, and then there's the oh no moment. And the whole audience is cringe.
No,
good old 80s trope, but that was like...
It's an 80s trope that thankfully doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And you know what? I feel... The thing that I felt watching that character was nothing but empathy for that actor and the amount of, like, pride he must have had to swallow to play such a...
You have to have seen this movie. If you haven't, go see it. Go buy it. A Hollywood Shuffle.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's like... But
I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know if it still holds up. I'm sure it does.
I actually got a copy finally. The only one I didn't really like the part was the detective story because it runs a little long.
Yeah.
That's like... But it's awesome. But did you realize in this... I didn't know this one... Everything had to be one shot because they didn't have any money.
No, he had no money and he had no
permits.
His
credit cards and everything.
Oh yeah, no, Robert Townsend made that movie for whatever money he had, and he shot it in Hollywood with no permits on the street.
One scene, you only get one take because you get to do it.
But luckily, he had the Wayans family and all these amazing actors who you see, David Allen Greer and like all these incredible people. It's like all you have to do is just amass a group of incredibly talented improvisers.
In other words, don't get me to do it.
Oh yeah, no.
Wouldn't that be okay? Shoot, huh? Oh, we can't do that. Can't do it.
You do one take, or apparently, like when if you're working with Morgan Freeman, he'll only give you one take.
Yeah, people not like.
We need another one. Why? Anyways,
like Ed Wood.
Tangent from another podcast.
It looks perfect, though. It's perfect. We banged in the door, though. Well, yeah, we'd have that struggle every day.
You'd have that struggle every day. It's like, yeah, but the door wouldn't wobble.
But that's how it goes, so what are you going to do? So, but, yeah, but that's how. But, I mean, I look how, like, for Marvel with the future and everything, I think maybe you hit, like, a bump and then you just readjust and everything. But could you imagine growing up, like when we were kids, so all this stuff out here now?
I think I think the roadmap they have, I feel like it's sound because there are so many classic things that they're keeping back purposefully because, you don't want you don't have to bring out nth tier villains for your next Avengers movie, because you just so you're pulling, but they're also they're also trying to pull from good story runs for their ideas, but I also think Kevin Feige's a really smart guy, and he pisses people off as much as he is applauded, but he didn't just show up in Hollywood. He'd been behind the scenes with stuff for years. Like he knew what to do, and and I think that they're going to make some course corrections. As long as they're not doing these like Rise of Skywalker retcon nonsense, which I can't imagine he would do, but. I think the biggest issue right now with the Kang thing, though, unfortunately, is Jonathan Major, and I have no idea. I don't know. I've read a lot of stuff. I've read a lot of stuff. I don't want to say. I don't want to say because one, it's none of my business. But there seems to be a lot of nuance to that situation. But. I mean, they've also been very public in saying that the reason that they went forward with Kang was because of his performance in Loki. He was in one scene.
Yeah.
And by that one scene, they were like, this is our villain for the next phase. He
was on
Marvel.
my list, though. He was like, I made
and he's going to be all over Loki, too. So they just, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But
that's the beauty of it.
He, regardless of what he has going on in his personal life, he's an incredible actor with a lot of talent. And if he has harpooned his career with his own personal life, that's unfortunate. But at the same time, when you talk about Flash, let's look at how long it took for people to turn on Ezra Miller and how fast they turned on Jonathan Major.
And the thing
He
is,
lost work
my other
immediately
thing,
after,
too, is
and I'm like, there's a big difference between those two actors. Yeah, look at them, you'll figure it out. So
one's a
I don't know.
DC character, one's a Marvel
yes,
character,
exactly.
But the thing is, too, there's so much hot air out there. There's so much stuff. I could go on the internet, write the dumbest thing down, and there'll be plenty of. So
but it's less of a public perception thing and more of a will he be available to work, or will he be incarcerated?
And get through till you really, find out what's going on or everything, too. These days, everybody's rash to judge. You just make up you hear rumor.
People.
It's your opinion, too, about the...
Everyone needs an answer right now.
Yeah.
And trust me, I have ADD. I understand
I'm
that.
bad, too, like that. I mean, I get to you ever get to the point, now even, if I actually am watching regularly as a commercial, you go to your phone,
All I know is, if you see something, if you see a piece of information on the internet and you're going to do anything or make any kind of decision based on that, check the sources.
Yeah, one of my friends...
See where you're looking. For example, anytime a celebrity dies and I see it on the internet, I have to go to at least 3 different places.
I saw a bunch of Facebook posts about John Bon Jovi last year. But then one of my friends is really beefed because... For Flash on the WB, they promised Legends of Tomorrow would be in it, and they weren't in it.
Here's the thing. Here's the other thing, though. To have these characters show up, you have to have the actors be there to play them.
People don't realize.
People don't understand. You can't just get that. When their series was canceled, then sit there and wait for them to be called again to play. Captain Cold or whatever. They need other work. It's okay, I've been in a series for 7 years. I need to find other jobs.
And that's us. We're big. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. For them, it was a job for 3 years. They had fun. Most of them, by all means, they might not have Shatner, but they had a fun time. Well, it was a job. What did Spock do? He went on to Mission Impossible right after.
Also, it was a completely different time in TV. Yeah. There was not reruns really weren't a thing. Franchises weren't a thing. There being any more Star Trek after that, people just assumed, well, that was Star Trek. It was a thing we watched and we liked it. But until reruns blew up in the 70s, that's what started all that stuff. Yeah, exactly. But back then, it was just a job. We're missing seasons of Doctor Who because the BBC literally taped over them because you watched the TV show one time. And it was done. And it was filmed live on videotape that they would tape over.
Vampira, they don't exist. Dig Me Up Vampira. You could see the opening. You hope somebody maybe was a fan and maybe made copies and it turns up like an
videotape back in those days. Expensive. You can't just the BBC couldn't sit on 1 million
and now
of these
if they had
giant clunky half-inch
seller they would
videotapes.
be on video if they had them now. Dig Me Up Vampire and everything. But this is always, the time flies by with you all
I know.
You're great for this show for a minute.
Well, thank you for letting me get my plugs
in. You'll be back.
I will.
Next time, hopefully, we won't have the drama we had this time of days. And
it's just some parking issues. That's all.
We're in the multiverse. Yeah. But can you say again, tune in. When's your...
Yes. You can find Architects of Entropy, our first season, anywhere you get podcasts. I'll send a link to the website. But honestly, just go on any podcatcher. Architects of Entropy. No weird spelling. And find us and give a listen. And be forgiving of the first few episodes. I was learning how to edit. And a lot of it is, and it's almost all recorded mobily for recorded, not mobily, but Zoom recordings for obvious reasons, and the fact that I have no money.
Oh, and the other thing too is you played quite a
and
show.
We have a Patreon as well. So patreon.com/AOE podcast. Listen first.
Hey, we're a sponsor of Wadsworth Homestead's concerts too. Big shout out to Jeremy.
The more patrons I get, the more stuff I will actually do because I had all these things I was doing for my patrons who just wanted to give me money and didn't
any
need me to do anything.
They could like hang out with me for like half an hour, maybe. But I have to ask you,
you can give me names of I can throw in names into the campaign. I just send me.
But you played quite a charming fellow in House of Hands. That mask is haunting me to this day. But now we're going to have our good friends from DVC on to promote More Than This in June.
Yes.
How are you? And then actually, All the Devils is like I'm going to go twice because I have so many friends who want to see it in November. But how is there something in the future for you? Did you get to keep that mask?
No, I didn't get to keep the mask.
You played a charm well.
From what I understand, I have no idea. MJ wrote a sequel to House of Hands that has been out, but they're reworking it, and they definitely want to adapt that in the future. And the character I played, Warren, the big giant creep, apparently has had a much larger role in that because it's like takes place in the past of their character, which he's a big part. So I've been crossing my fingers that day will come.
Well, this year we have some two good ones to go see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go support everything else.
Support everything else out there. Go see
DVC.
Awesome. They're great.
Actually, our good friend Jill Renninger, they just did the Seagull ad. Really good. Really good.
No, the company is there.
All the stuff around here is good.
It's an embarrassment of riches we have in this.
But I've heard about MJ like House of Hands for years. It'd be I'm drinking champagne. Yeah. But so I go, wow, I know. It's Patrick. Oh shit.
Yeah,
I think it's called
acting. I was a last minute. I was like a emergency fill in.
It was awesome. But thanks for being on. It's always
no problem.
Fun, everything else. But we're going to have Sunny Sweeney. She's actually a really cool person. I met her at Abilene.
Nice.
And she kept like insisting to take pictures. Like she wanted. Like I don't usually do selfies. She actually asked, and she's like, okay, this doesn't come on. I go, look, you look better being next to me anyways. But her view, she actually filled in for, true story, she filled in for Loretta Lynn when Loretta Lynn was ill.
Oh, wow.
Loretta called her, and she asked her, she said, you were really good. She's like, I can't do the draw. But she's like, what's the thing about songwriting? Simple. Write what you know. So Sonny goes, well, that's why I write about bad relationships and alcoholism in every song about that. So we're going to play from her latest album. She's just been back at Abilene. She's coming again. We're going to play the title track, Married Alone. And go check her out if you can. She'll be back again. She actually did a pop-up show like a few weeks ago, but it popped up. I couldn't go to it, but she's coming. Just go on the Abilene
about
site.
Pop-ups. Sometimes they pop up in the place you can't be.
No, you ever get I get those Facebook things where it's like the day after something happened.
Oh yeah,
that's the great thing about his podcast, my podcast.
That's the thing about me. I don't ever do anything. So.
No, I don't really do as much. People think I do, but I don't.
You do more than I do, which I should do more. But
no, you do what makes you happier. Just yeah. But anyways, this has been fun. Everything for a podcast, you can listen to whenever you want.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have any word of wisdom to end or just end?
Make your world. Make your world.
And if you're going somewhere, make sure the parking lot is nose in the regatta. And then we'll play Sunny Sweeney. See you later.
Bye.
On the hard line in the dark, trying not to let you hear my tears fall through the phone. This house is where we live, but without you here, honey, it ain't a home. There may be rings on our fingers, but we're married alone. Kiss me goodbye, for worse or for better. 4 days and 3 nights, might as well be forever. Don't say you miss me, it hurts more than helps. Mr. and Mrs. all by ourselves. This half single life is like an old pair of shoes. They just don't fit quite like they used to. Lonely's a friend we both know too well, but still we're tears fall through the phone. This house is where we live, but without you here, honey, it ain't a home. There may be rings on our fingers, but we're married alone. We're supposed to pick up right where we left, put us back together before the next time to get going. One more kiss goodbye, till death do us part. Another part of me died. Together, apart, married alone. It's hell on the hard line in the dark, trying not to let you hear my tears fall through the phone. This house is where we live, but without you here, honey, it ain't a home. There may be rings on our fingers, but we're married